Shanti, good morning. Probably most of you did not read the Upanishads, right? So there's a philosophy in the Upanishads about the soul, and Baba is taking up this in the Murli today. But I think that most people are not aware that this is one of the tenets of some sections of Hinduism because they believe that the soul is some sort of an object which is like a mirror, and that karma is like dust which falls on the mirror and gradually removes the reflective capacity of the mirror. And this is how the light of the soul is reduced. So this is described in the Upanishads. And Baba is talking about rust, which is the same sort of idea. And if you have that sense of what the beliefs are, then you can make a connection between the contrast between that idea and what Baba is saying. Because every aspect of Hinduism that is that takes people away from Gyan has to be explained, because sooner or later BKs will have to explain all this to scholars, and the scholars know a lot. And so this is quite useful if you come across someone who has that background. So rust is about corrosion, and rust is also connected with iron. And so anything which is iron corrodes easily, and the corrosion of iron is rust. The corrosion of copper, when copper gets corroded, it turns green, right? And when silver gets corroded, it turns black. And rust is orange colored. And gold will get a little dull, but it doesn't change color. And the dullness of gold is connected with the number of carats. So if it's 24 karat gold, it doesn't tarnish. 22 karat, 18 karat, it'll get a little dull. So we're the practice that Baba's giving in the Murli today is about removing the corrosion. So normally corrosion is oxidization, right? So when the soul is exposed to the material world, the Iron Age soul, exposure to the material world causes this corrosion. And so our spiritual effort is to do something which counteracts the corrosive effect of the material world. And it's all to do with the mind functioning on the basis of sense perception. You get exposure to the material world. But when you are with Baba, you're on a different level, and your exposure is to him much more than to the material world. So the essence is, sweet children, make the effort, that is, do the work to remove the rust from the vices that has come onto the soul through the remembrance of the Father, who is Sarva Shaktivan. So in order to do that, you need power. And when you remember Baba, you're connected with an energy which is a vibration that takes out that corrosion. And when you're connected with sense perception, you're connected with the energy of matter that has more power than you. So the question is, why is your focus of attention breaking away from the Father, and how do you reconnect it easily? So the answer, when your yoga of the intellect, which means focus of attention, breaks, it is when you have become body conscious and you forget the wisdom of the Father, and then your eyes fall on sense attraction. That means lustful eyes. And this is why Baba says, as much as possible, follow Baba's recommendations and make the full effort to keep yourself soul conscious. Make yourself, the soul, pure through remembrance of the imperishable surgeon. So when a human body gets an illness, it's also related to corrosion and oxidation of the body parts. And this is why Baba says your relationship with him in removing this oxidation is he's the surgeon. The song is You Are the Fortune of Tomorrow. Om Shanti. Good Shiva is speaking. You children heard the song, and you understand that Baba, the purifier, is sitting in front of you. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is definitely called the purifier. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar cannot be called purifiers. That one is the ocean of knowledge. So you children know that you souls are listening to knowledge from the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, and you have now become soul conscious. People in the world are body conscious. Body conscious means your concept of reality is based on observation. That's body conscious. And soul conscious is your concept of reality is based on Baba's Gyan, which is different. So those who are soul conscious become elevated. And the Supreme Soul is sitting here making you soul conscious. And the Father explains a soul becomes sinful or pure. You cannot say that a body becomes sinful or pure. Sanskaras are in the soul. Bodies get destroyed again and again. You children know that Shiv Baba is also called the imperishable surgeon. So purifier and surgeon, so healer. The souls are imperishable, and the Father is also imperishable. The soul can never be destroyed, but the soul gets covered with the rust of devils. It says here, rust of devils. It's not actually rust of devils, but corrosion as a result of coming under the influence of sense perception. So the most unclean form of rust is the vice of lust. And then secondly comes the vice of anger. So if you think about the vibration of the feeling of lust, or the feeling of anger, or the feeling of attachment, the feeling of greed, these are vibrations that are very different, very dissonant in comparison with soul conscious vibration or the vibration of the remembrance of Baba. So there's dissonance has an effect on the soul. So the Father sits here and explains this to you souls. Have the firm faith that the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, has entered into this simple body of Brahma. He is the charioteer of this chariot, the rider, the driver of this chariot. It is not a horse and chariot, but the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, explains to you souls. So a soul has to have a vehicle. Deities always ride on different animals, so the body is a vehicle. Baba explains, souls, you are covered with the rust of the 5 vices. And the 5 vices are called Ravan. So if you look in the details of Ravan symbolism, it's all to do with materialism and information based on observation. And so sense perception is also information based on observation. Because you are covered with the rust of vices, you have become vice-based and impoverished. Now I am removing your rust. I am the only surgeon who can remove that rust. There cannot be any other surgeon of human souls. No human being can remove the rust that covers souls. So in order for the rust to be removed, the omnipotent Supreme Soul is definitely needed. It needs power to do this. He says, O embodied souls, O my children, if you remember me, the rust on your souls will continue to get removed. And if you don't remember me, the rust will not be removed. Not only that, it will accumulate. If you do not understand this and apply this, you will not be able to claim a high status. Those who are covered with rust are called impure. And when a soul becomes impure, then he gets an impure body. So an impure body is susceptible to disease. When a soul is satopradhan, he receives a satopradhan body. So the matter of your body in the Golden Age has a resonance that sustains health. You can't get sick. Rust accumulates little by little. Initially, just the amount of salt in the bread dough, and then in the Copper Age, more rust is accumulated, and the degrees, that means the brightness of souls, gradually decrease. So it takes 1250 years for souls to decline to 14 degrees from 16 degrees. It's a very slight reduction in the brightness, means a slight amount of this dust. In the Upanishads, it says dust, and Baba says rust, which is because of metal. And in the Upanishads, their example is because of the mirror getting dust on it. So you should always be aware that UBKs are children of Ram. Ram means Sheikh Baba. And the other people are children of Ravan. And they are called this because they are created through poison. So they are lust-born people. There is no poison in the Golden Age. At the present time, it doesn't matter how many blessings someone may give, but there will be someone above that person who will give him blessings. For example, it is said of the Pope that he gives blessings. But the Pope also needs blessings from the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, who is the highest on high. So there's no one above God. You receive blessings when you follow Shrimat. How could there be blessings for someone who is not Agyakari? So Agyakari is not really obedient, disobedient, but it means that you act according to the wisdom that Baba gives, which is a bit different. Baba says, now become soul conscious. If there is body consciousness, it means that you are not following the wisdom that Baba gives, and this would then destroy your status. Baba has now come, and you are consequently serving Bharat to make it elevated. It is with great difficulty that you get even 3 feet of land. Now it's not so difficult, but it was. I remember one time when Chandruben and myself first came to North America, we were in Canada, and in Toronto, because we were of 2 different colors, 2 different races, it was not permissible for us to live in the same apartment. And yeah. And so we couldn't live anywhere. And so she went to stay with a Gujarati family, and I went to stay with one sister who's in black body. And we discovered that phone calls. And so it was quite difficult in the beginning. And we, Chandruben and I, we were quite far apart distance-wise. We didn't have transportation, so we couldn't meet. And so we used to spend the entire day, because in those days there was no English Murli, so we spent the entire day studying the Murli. And in that way, she learned English and I learned Hindi. And along with that, all the bhakti background. And that went on for many months until one day a person from Guyana, because the service had started very high level in Guyana. And so the Guyanese people, there are many Guyanese people in Canada. So one of them was quite wealthy, and she said, okay, I will buy an apartment, but it has to be near where I live, and then you both can rent it from me. And so that's how we got our place. But you can understand that, you know, everybody in the early days had some or another kind of difficulty. When Dadi Janki first came to Pune, very, very much opposition was there, and she had this really unpleasant place to stay in, and just did tapasya. And then out of those many, many years of tapasya, slowly the circumstances became better, and now we don't even think about having any difficulties somewhere to live. But it was different in the beginning. So Baba says, I now make the whole world new for you. You can also explain to important people at the exhibitions that we are engaged in doing this elevated service. So come and understand how we are making Bharat elevated. After showing them the exhibits, explain to them that Shrimat comes from the one Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, who is ever pure. He is abhokta, nothing can happen to him. He is asochta, he doesn't have to figure out anything. and he is the ocean of knowledge. So many people don't really know about God. They believe in God, but they don't know about God. And Baba emphasizes these two things: ocean of knowledge, purifier. So what he is and what he does. So his sanskaras are the sanskaras of knowledge, which come out of his mouth. He doesn't do any action. He's akarta, but he speaks. And the knowledge that he gives enables us to have communion with him. And through that, there is purification. So it's really very extraordinary how he tells us who he is, which is quite different from how the devotees think about God. He establishes heaven. So how he establishes heaven? By changing our karma and changing our consciousness. We are serving Bharat by following his Srimad. It is remembered that the Pandavas did not receive even 3 feet of land. So you know the story of this, that Duryodhana wanted the total kingdom. And every so often the Pandavas, they would go to the father, Dhritarashtra, and say, we need a place to live. And eventually they were given a really awful place. And so they had to really redo that whole place and create a beautiful city, which was a really beautiful city. But Duryodhana did everything possible to prevent it because he was afraid of them. So a very broad and unlimited intellect is needed to understand this. That means you need to be able to process the symbolism and see how it applies to the present day. Now that understanding can only happen when you have complete yoga. Only then can the rust of body consciousness be removed. So complete yoga means you're really connected with yourself as a soul. You're disconnected from the influence of sense perception, and you're on the same dimension with Shiv Baba, incorporeal world. Baba advises you to explain to such and such a person and tell them, we have all made a promise to Baba. We also have photographs. So Baba would take photographs of all the people who promised to practice purity and everything. The head office and the other centers in Delhi and everywhere else should also have these photographs. A very broad and unlimited intellect is required for this too. What's the use of photographs is that you are proving that you can't be, talking out of your head, just imagination, but there's this many people who are all doing it. And when you have a lot of people doing something, there's an influence, and people think it must be real if there's a lot of people doing it. So there should be 3 or 4 copies of the photos. However, Maya can overcome any child at any time. So then Baba would remove the photographs of those who went away. So then those who were amazed by the knowledge and who came to belong to the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, and who were in the process of claiming the kingdom of the world, they left. The Unlimited Father says, I am changing the entire world, making it first class, and then I give it to you, and you will then sit and rule there, and everything else will have been destroyed. Means the world as we know it. You children definitely have to become soul conscious. Everyone has a right to practice purity. Now that the Father has come, he says, connect yourself in yoga with me, drink the nectar of knowledge, and you will become pure. Sannyasis also dislike vice of lust. It is good to practice celibacy. Deities were also pure. Only the Father comes and makes you pure from impure. Everyone there is viceless, and that is the viceless world. When Bharat was viceless, it was called the Golden Sparrow. So as much as there is purity, that much there is prosperity. The peace means stillness, and prosperity because your karma is pure. So who made it like that? The Golden Sparrow. It would definitely have been the Father who made it like that. Souls become impure and diseased. The surgeon of souls is God. It cannot be a human being. The Father says, I myself am the purifier, and everyone remembers me. It is very good to practice purity. The sages and holy men have all been remembering me, and they have been remembering me birth after birth, saying, O purifier, come. And God is only one. There's only one soul like that. The devotees cannot be God. They do not even know God. I explained to you all these things in the previous cycle also. God is speaking. I am teaching you Raj Yoga. I enter the body of Brahma, who was worship-worthy and then became a worshipper. There were pure kings, and those pure kings have now become impure beggars. So purity and prosperity, impurity and poverty. If you have the faith that you are BKs, the children of Brahma, Prajapita Brahma, the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Father, created Brahmins through Brahma. Donations are given to Brahmin priests. So what donation am I giving? The whole world. So Shiv Baba is giving the whole world to Brahmins. Brahmins don't think God is giving them a donation. The devotees give them a donation. But here God is giving a donation, gift of the whole world. I am personally sitting in front of those who are changing from Shudras into Brahmins and who are doing my service. And I explain to them, you must never have impure, unclean vision, lustful vision. You must have a lot of courage to explain at the exhibitions, as people will oppose you. The purifier is only the one Father, and you are in remembrance of him. These are the Ganges rivers, Ganges of knowledge, who have emerged from the ocean of knowledge, and they are also called Shiv Shaktis. You receive power by having yoga with Shiv Baba. And the rust of the 5 vices is removed. A magnet can only draw a needle to itself when the needle is clean. If the needle is rusty, the magnetism won't work. So you have to be clean pure in order to be able to be pulled by Baba. You souls are covered with the rust of Maya. And now by having yoga with me, that rust will get cleaned away. Now it is the kingdom of Ravan, and everyone has a tamopradhan intellect. That means the intellect is only able to process concepts based on sense perception. So you're getting concepts that come directly from God. So pure intellect is needed, otherwise called the golden vessel into which the milk of the lioness can go. This is why God said, I come and I uplift sinners as bad as Ajamil, who have no virtues, and I also uplift the sages. Only the one Father makes everyone elevated. So this connection between Ajamil and holy men is interesting, because Ajamil is a rapist. That means somebody totally focused on body, matter, and the holy men derive their concepts based on what they observe of matter, because they're able to, through their practices, make contact with the energy of matter, like the physicists of today, similar. And so both of them are getting or are operating on the basis of matter. So he has to uplift the sages as well as the Ajamil people. Only the one Father makes everyone elevated. Only the purifier Father comes and makes Bharat pure through these women. And this is why women call out to God, saying, protect us from being stripped. But the men do not allow their wives to stay pure. So you should tell the government that they should help us in this. But the wives themselves have to be very strong with intoxication. Intoxication means that you're very, you have very strong conviction about who Baba is and what your connection with him is. And it shouldn't be that you go to the government looking for protection and then you remember your husband and children. And the problem that happens when there is domestic violence, which is what this is about, is that it's very difficult for the law enforcement agencies to deal with it, because a man may beat up his wife and children, sometimes get in the crossfire, and then she will not prosecute. And so then they have a policy of, okay, there's nothing we can do if you don't prosecute. And this is why domestic violence can't easily be sorted out. So in that case, you would be in an even worse condition. So you make a application to the government, then you go back to your family, but they're going to make you pay for it. So the Father continues to explain everything about how you should create methods. The days of happiness for you children are about to come. So you are able to endure difficulties when you know that it's only for a short time, right? Baba says, I am creating the golden aged world, which is called heaven, and I give that to you. Shrimat is, have yoga with me, the Father, and the rust will be removed. If you do not do that, then you will neither be able to claim a very high status, nor will you be able to imbibe the knowledge. Do not perform any negative karma. When you slip into body consciousness, it breaks your connection with Baba. This Brahma also remembers that Father. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is sitting in this body of Brahma and saying to him, O Soul of Brahma, and saying to Mama, O Soul of Radhe, remember me and your rust will be removed. It's pretty amazing, right? Only when you consider yourselves to be souls and follow Srimat fully can you remember him. Greed is not less. When you see something that looks tasty, you want to eat it. You want to eat it because it's tasty, not because you're hungry. Then that's called greed. Maya, like a rat, blows, that means makes you insensitive, and then bites. There are many, it says here, imaginary stories. These are tooth stories. Tooth, dant katai, moral stories. Sannyasis say that these pictures that you are exhibiting are imaginary, your imagination. Baba continues to explain everything to you children. Do not think that when you do something that Baba is not aware of it. Baba knows exactly how much unclean activity there is in this world. The innocent ones are to be assaulted. This is a sentence that many people may find distressing, but there is a spiritual law that says that the amount of extreme negative karma must reach a particular level, maximum level, and overflow. And the worst thing that can be done is assaulting women and girls because they're defenseless and because it's condoned by the society and it's allowed. So you must protect yourself. He's talking to the women. Protect yourself by using the right method. You know, there is a story of the 1001 Nights. You know the story? There was an emperor, and he would get married with some woman, and then he would enjoy her body, and then kill her, and then take the next virgin. He would kill her because he didn't want anybody else to have her. He would have her, and he didn't want her more than once, so he would kill her. And so there was one queen who managed to survive by telling these stories. And sometimes it's called the Arabian Nights stories. So this was a method to stay protected. And there are various methods that you can use to keep yourself protected. And if you don't, then your status will be destroyed. It is understood that according to the drama, all that is to happen. So on one hand, you have to protect yourself, and on the other hand, there are situations where you will get assaulted. Baba says, I continue to explain to you. If you have enough yoga and enough light and enough contact with God, you'll be able to hold out, and that other one will not be able to do anything. But you have to have good yoga and full detachment. If you don't understand, then some will become maids or servants, some will become subjects. the destiny of the drama is predestined. That means what happens in drama is predestined. What can anyone do? The poor, the wealthy, all definitely have to be created. And Baba comes in Bharat. This is the impure land. So in the scriptures it says God comes in Magadesh, which is the worst possible place in the whole planet. And so that was a description of sin, because a lot of sin over there. So Baba comes in Bharat. This is an impure land, and Baba comes and makes the whole world into a pure land. Bharat alone receives all the butter. So the war between the powers in the world is to achieve conquest over the entire world. And so all the different religions and civilizations and so on try for it. And there is a prediction that the current community of Islam is trying for it, because that's what jihad is all about at the moment. And the Christians tried very hard to take over the whole world, but that's not working so well. And then ultimately, what Baba has predicted is this war between Russia and America. And both of them are Christian powers at the moment. There used to be that communism was against Christianity, but now it's very strongly Christian. And so they want to control the world. And so they will try, but the butter will come to Bharat. This is a simple story, but a lot of courage is needed to stay in knowledge and yoga. If you do not follow Shrimat, your status is destroyed. Baba gives you directions. Explain in this way. And those who explain have to be very sensible. There is so much love for Baba. Children write, with so much love, I am sending a sweater for Baba's chariot. And Shiv Baba is our unlimited father. It was very, very cold in Madhuban. And in the early days, there was very little money. So a sweater was a very good thing to have. So he is making us into the masters of heaven. You keep Baba in your intellect. I am sending Toli to Shiv Baba's chariot. I am decorating Shiv Baba's chariot, just as the horse of Hussein is decorated. This one is the true horse, the vehicle of Shiv Baba, so Brahma Baba. Only the purifier Baba purifies everyone. And this one is decorating himself. He remembers Baba, he's decorating himself with knowledge. He remembers Baba, and he also remembers his status. These two, Mama and Baba, are very strong, very firm. And they become the god and goddess of knowledge, and then the emperor and empress of the world. They must definitely have children also, with descendants. You truly become the masters, number-wise, according to the efforts you make. Through Raj Yoga, you become an emperor or empress, but then it depends on how much service each of you does. Baba tells you all the methods. Acha, to the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada, and the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children, Spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. And the essence for dharana, to receive the father's blessings, you must follow his wisdom. Follow his instruction to become soul conscious. Secondly, Maya is a rat, not a mouse. Chua is not a mouse. Mouse is not going to do anything. Rat. So you have to protect yourself from the rat. The rat is not a woman, it's it. Do not have greed. Continue to follow Shrimat fully. And the blessing is, experiment with the powers of yoga and knowledge by becoming light. You have become jnani and yogi souls, and now experiment with the powers of knowledge and yoga. There are some instruments of science that function with light. What functions with light? All this technology, right? In the same way, the foundation of the power of silence is also light. The imperishable light of God. So energy, the energy of matter is light, right? And the energy of Shiv Baba is also light. So the light of souls and the light of your practical stage. So you have to be a point of light. Draw that light. Light means power into yourself and then radiate. So when you wish to experiment, you must check whether you are light or not. That means whether you're switched on or not. If your stage is light, your form is double light. One is your radiant and the other is your weightless, bodiless. Then you will easily achieve success in your experiments. You'll be able to get things done through light. And the slogan, if you want to experience Jivan Mukti, then you must be free from impure thoughts and impure actions. Om Shanti. Experience the stage of being merged in love. So the Tyagi and Tapasvi souls, Tyagi is the renunciate, Tapasvi, you are engaged in spiritual practice. Such ones are always lost in the Father's love. They remain merged in the ocean of love, the ocean of knowledge, bliss, happiness, and peace. Such children who always remain merged are true tapasvis, and they are able to renounce everything naturally. Tyag, what do you have to renounce? If you've already renounced everything, what is left? You have to think about the challenges. So, something will make you irritated. Something will make you heavy. Something will make you depressed. Something will make you have anxiety or tension. So, renunciation of those things, how do we do that? And because those are very subtle, it's quite easy to renounce physical things. And so that's already been accomplished. But in the practice of yoga, you have to move to progressively subtle levels. And there are certain things in your life experience which make you feel uneasy or unclear about who you are. And then when something like that happens, it can bring you into a default reaction, which is a kind of ego, a way of asserting the self, which is not the same as being in your seat of self-respect, but which is a substitute for that, which Baba calls ego. And so I think this practice that Baba spoke to us about now of light is very helpful to come out of that situation. And January is the month of Tapasyarat, because January is the month where Brahma Baba became karmatit. And so generally speaking, it is traditional in BKs to dedicate January to yoga bhattis. There are many yoga bhattis going on. And really do a lot of work to bring the stage up. And in many Murlis connected with January, Baba has said, this month is specially given to us for this kind of tapasya. And in many parts of the world, January is very cold. Mount Abu is extremely cold in January. And so to think about operating or getting things done through light is quite interesting. He talked to us about experimentation. And experimentation means, first of all, you have to think what exactly is the power of God, which he says is light, is an energy. And what exactly is the power of the soul? Is also light, is energy. And this energy uses the mind, intellect, sanskaras, but the soul is not mind, intellect, sanskaras. So we have to go more further inside than mind, intellect, sanskaras to touch this light, this point of light. And a point means you have to bring yourself to a different dimension. And you can't do that unless you're motivated by love, because if you do it by concentration, it will become rigid. And then it won't work when it's rigid. So it has to be fluid. And you can only keep it fluid when you're really in love with God. Because you don't have to force it. It just is there. And because it is there naturally, is fluid. And it also has to be concentrated. So this light and that light, and then radiate. And then no thoughts except the necessary thought. So the necessary thought is, you have to decide what it is. Because when you have yourself in concentrated light, concentrated on that light, then whatever you want, you make it happen. So you have to decide what's needed. So that choice of what is needed is very important, because anything. So if you want to do some small thing, it's not worth it, because you use all that energy for a small thing, like looking for your keys or your glasses that you lost. That can be done. But we have to operate on a much higher level. So you have to think, at what level. And sometimes in some other Murlis, Baba had spoken about this, and he said that the energy of your light energy or thought energy has to circle the world, because you are creating a trail of energy around the world, which is a vibration as well as a trail of energy which can be felt. And, I've been thinking about how is it possible for us to go from our current level of 1 million BKs to this other level of 330 million. And also, we have many, many Murlis in which Baba said, now you have to do service through the mind. And you can connect this idea of the energy when you are just the light, connecting with that light. And that means you are not concerned with any kind of trivia, because there are many trivial things that are going on all the time, right? But we're not concerned about that. So very, very focused on what is really important. And there are some people in this world who are they could be artists of one type or another, or they could be sports people, whatever, but absolute total focus on their, whatever it is, their thing. And because of that, they achieve, they become the best in the world. And what we're doing also has that possibility that you become the best in the world. But in order to become the best in the world, we have to use the available time to be that much focused and stay with it and focus on it until it becomes clear. And experimenting with it means you try it in lots of different ways and see what happens. And then when many people are doing it, sometimes Baba had said, okay, all BKs have the same thought at the same time for the same amount of time and hold that thought. Sometimes Baba used to, in the Avyakta meetings, he would conduct a drill. And these drills are recorded, and many people who are doing bhattis are following these drills. And so when everyone is having the same thought at the same time for the same amount of time, it creates a very tangible vibration. And when the vibration is like, in a laser light, the light beams are parallel. In other light, the light beams are going in all directions. If you have BKs having the same thought at the same time, going in one direction, it functions like a laser. And what laser will do is it will interfere with other things that are going on. So, for example, in many places there are cameras which are recording everyone, surveilling everyone, right? In the United States, there are so many thousands of cameras. You will get a photograph will be taken all the time. But this has been banned in San Francisco. I don't know if you know that, but it's not allowed in San Francisco, but in other places it is. So they will use laser beams to interfere with that technology that invades you. And parallel is that we are getting all the time invaded by Maya, because we are connected with our sense perceptions, and when we are not focused on being with Baba and being soul conscious, then we drop down into body consciousness, and there's different varieties of very subtle invasions from Maya. But this parallel light will interfere with Maya, and we'll be able to do what we have to do. So in this Murli and few Murlis, Baba's been saying you had to be in the soul conscious stage, because that's the first thing to get up there, and then to connect with Baba and experiment with this light. So an interesting practice to do. There's a question, what is the rust of the Silver Age? So there's a difference between gold and silver. So silver, when it's mixed into the gold, then the gold is able to get a bit discolored. And you remember that there was a statement in a Murli very recently that in the Golden Age there were 2 children, and then in the Silver Age came some complications. They got 3 children. And so just a slight drop from that, you can say, systematic system of the Golden Age, just a little bit of interference with that, we can say, would be the rust of the Silver Age. But the main problem comes in the Copper Age, because Baba talks about the small destruction, where the civilization of the Golden and Silver Age is destroyed, the world of heaven is destroyed, and people become body conscious, and they become aware of sense perception in a different way. And so they become aware of bodies, and they become very caught up in procreation through sexual means, and their system of the technology all broke because the grid of the earth broke down. And this also is a time when they remembered what happened in the Confluence Age, and so they started to be remembering Shiv Baba and looking for God from that time. So it was a very dramatic loss of soul consciousness, and the whole fabric of the earth was broken. So they had to look for it, try to put it back. Perform every action as a point of light. What Baba used to do in the early days when he was teaching everyone how to practice to be soul conscious, he would tell them, okay, while you are doing some simple thing, like you are eating your food, okay, when you're eating your food, you don't have to be doing anything else. So either soul, making my hand, put the food in the mouth of this body, or either soul, and walking along, I am making my legs move, and being just very, very aware that the soul is performing actions through the body. Because normally you just act, you don't think the soul is doing something through the body. But this is a very good practice, because it makes you really conscious of the self as a soul, and that you're using that energy of the self to make your body move. And normally we're unconscious about that. So it's a way of making yourself conscious. And so this is what he means by that, because you have to understand that what a soul is, and that you are the soul, and you are looking through your eyes. The other thing that it does is it makes you very accountable for what you're doing. You can't get away with anything. And when you're looking through your eyes, you focus somewhere and then you have peripheral vision. And when something comes in front of you, where do your eyes go? Do you see the soul? Do you see the totality? Or do you focus on something that pulls your attention? Because if there's something that pulls your attention, it's an indicator of where you are weak or where you are damaged, where the soul is damaged. And it's a way of healing the soul to continuously focus where it's supposed to focus, so that where it goes without your intention, without your wish, that is normalized, and you come back to seeing a person as a being, not different body parts or whatever. And Baba was talking a lot in this Murli, you've got to have clean vision. Don't look at body parts, look at beings. Or sometimes what happens, and you notice this very much in Madhuban, because in Madhuban everyone is wearing the same clothes. You know, all the sisters in white saris, all the brothers in kurta pajama, and everybody is like the same. And if somebody is carrying something, or they've got a bag with something in it, everybody's eyes go to that bag. Because I don't know why it is, but it's a phenomenon. What have you got? What makes you different? So Baba had made everybody the same, because then there's nothing to look at if everybody's the same. But if you have something different, it draws attention. So if you're carrying something, and also it is a custom in Madhuban that if you have to carry something from A to B, it must be inside a bag. Don't have that thing exposed, because it'll pull everybody's attention. Yeah, inside information. But you see, in Madhuban, everything is on a much more intense level than out, because when you're in the world, there's everything all over the place. But in Madhuban, there's just one thing. And so, yeah, it's called the Palace of Mirrors. So everything visible is like much, much more visible than normal. And if you do something outstanding, it becomes very visible. Or if you do something really bad, everybody knows about it before you've even thought about it. It's quite incredible. But so it's an environment where you have to be really clean. Otherwise, it disturbs the vibration. It's another question. If you don't understand, some will become subjects. You know, Baba uses this word number wise. So some people understand the Gyan very, very deeply. That means that they are able to act on it. So the level at which you understand the Gyan, interpret the Gyan, you will act on it. Some people, they go from a very simple form of devotion. They come into Gyan. They will take Gyan in a very simple way. So they will like Baba, they will like Gyan, but they may not necessarily understand it deeply. And so they won't be able to act on it as one who does understand it deeply. And so according to your understanding, you create your status, you create your fortune according to your level of yoga. So all of this is called number wise. And then the kingdom that is being created, it has one king at the top, and then it has the royal family, and then it has the, I don't know, the business community, the people who look after food production, and different artisans, and then maids and servants. In the Golden Age, there's tons of maids and servants. And it is a very, it's a very ancient type of culture. And if you look historically at how the cultures were functioning in ancient times, you will see that it's very pyramid structure. And the Golden Age is also like that. The difference is that in the Golden Age, there's no exploitation, there's no violence, there's no harming anybody or giving anybody any distress, but there's still a social structure, and everybody is like in the right place. Whoever you are, your situation, your circumstance corresponds with who you are, so you're comfortable. In the Iron Age, everything is topsy-turvy. You may have powerful people in a position of weakness, weak people in a position of power, someone who's an artist, and they have to be a scientist, someone who's a scientist, not allowed to practice. All this type of thing is happening in the Iron Age, where everyone is not where they should be. But in the Golden Age, everyone is totally what their circumstances corresponds exactly to who the soul is. It's very interesting. Okay, there is a question. I have thoughts that come without me wanting to think them, and I let them go and they come back and they don't leave me alone. I do yoga and they still come. What else can I do? I do feel a strong vibration when having yoga at the center and Madhuban that protect me from the other thoughts, but home is different. I think we could say that the thoughts that arise inside us come from stuff that we have taken in from the outside, and it's floating around, and whenever you sit quiet, it's going to come to the surface of your consciousness. And so if these are thoughts that are unwanted thoughts, we can say that it is like garbage, like trash. And when we are over many births, and in this birth, we are just absorbing all sorts of stuff that comes from the outside, then it's sitting there. And yoga is a method of getting these things out. And so they won't come out until they come to the surface, and then you let them go out. So I think you need to understand that you have allowed yourself to take in unwanted stuff. And so now you don't allow yourself to take in unwanted stuff. You become a detached observer, or your attention is busy with Baba. But it had come in, so it has to come out. And this is the way it comes out, in the form of unwanted thoughts. But just keep letting them go, because they have to come out. And there's no other way. The only way out is through. Have you heard this expression? You can't get out of any situation without going through it, and your thoughts can't come out of your soul without passing through your conscious mind. So I think just be easy about it and just flush it out. Dadi Janki gave an interesting example of this. She said that one way to get rid of things is to take the bucket of junk and turn it upside down, and you throw it all away. But there are some buckets of junk that are so big that you just can't. And so the way to do that is to flush it. And so you flush your mind with all sorts of thoughts of Baba, and it flushes out the unwanted stuff. Takes a bit more time, but it's another way of getting rid of the junk. She had all sorts of really good methods for things. Does Baba sustain those who are the heads of their religions? I think that the people who are sincere and who are in the top position of their religions, they will definitely practice to be in remembrance of God, and definitely Baba will sustain them. They will not know him as we know him, but they love him. And so definitely we can say that there are people who get connected because of their love for God, definitely. But the difference for us is that we know about him in ways that other people don't know. So definitely you can have this experience that you're describing. Yeah. So here's a question about vegan. So there's many BKs who are vegan, but in terms of Srimad, Baba never said that you have to be vegan. And so you decide what you want to do, and you do that, because there's nothing wrong with being vegan, and it's quite okay to be not vegan as a BK. So there is no policy and no pronouncement that a BK will make as representing BK, that whether you should or shouldn't be vegan. But there is a big gathering of BKs who are vegan, and some are very much proselytizing. And so you decide. What is love? What is love? We talk about love a lot. There's lots and lots of talks about love that are there on our list of talks. Love is doing an action that benefits another person, that also benefits you. Mutually beneficial interaction. This is love. Om Shanti. So